Change. What does it mean? Is it a signature? Is it a handshake? Is it a battlefield victory? Or is it just a word that symbolizes something that has already taken place? A self-evident truth that has just been realized, like watching a wave make its approach on a shoreline where it was always destined to go. Whatever it is, Myanmar is right in the middle of it. Impoverished, brutal military junta, abysmal human rights record, oppressive. If you know anything about Burma, these are your likely observations. After a half-century of military dictatorship, repression, and global isolation, the government's iron grip has cracked. The steady efforts of determined activists, which would often become political prisoners, raised the voices of the people so loudly that they could not be ignored. In 2012, the military agreed to relinquish some of its governmental control and allowed a body of civilian representatives to participate in running the country. However, this is not the first time they made this promise. In 1990, they pronounced the same thing. Elections were held, and Aung San Suu Kyi, activist and Nobel Peace Prize winner, was elected president. Then, the military changed their mind. They kept control for over 2 more decades, and they put the newly elected president on house arrest for 17 years. So what would inspire a young, educated, affluent American with a promising career in biotech living in Southern California move halfway across the world on the promise of a notably corrupt government? Is he crazy, disillusioned, or flat out unthinking? Perhaps, but maybe we should take a moment to consider that he was right. Garrett Perez, one of the only non-NGO or embassy-employed Americans living in Myanmar. He surrounds himself with the Burmese. He's friends with the locals, he eats with the locals, and he does business with the locals. He's put his future on the only sure thing in life, the idea that most of us resist, the undertaking that the Burmese people always knew would come, and the act that the government fought so hard to repress. A feat that the Buddha himself recognized as one of life's inevitable truths, the concept of impermanence, change. Arriving in 2012, fully embracing this concept, Garrett risked it all and plunged headfirst into the unknown. So where are we at right now?
Right now we're at your local grocery store.
If you ever want to get your pulse on a new city, check out the local market. If you do not know what that looks like or where to find one, let me give you a few pointers. Nothing says local market more than giant raw meat carcasses hanging from steel hooks. First, it will not be the original market that people direct you to. That market will be the touristy market, the one with postcards and statues of the sites around town, neatly organized and all tidied up. Second, if you find this market, you will feel like you are in the wrong place. This is a good sign. You're warming up. Third, these markets are always outdoors. If there is a roof, you haven't found it yet. The hot new thing in the U.S. is to talk about conservation. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Remember when your mother told you to eat everything on your plate because there were starving kids in Africa? Here, it's not a slogan. It's not a fad. It's not something you do to feel better about yourself. It's a way of life. It is a necessity. Having the highest poverty rate in Southeast Asia, the Burmese use everything because they have to. There's no expiration date, there's no red tape, just common sense. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Of course, reasonable safety measures are implemented, but it is secondary. After all, it is said that you need food and water to survive, not massive regulations. Nothing goes to waste. You would think that goat head stew would be making the most of an animal. But wait, don't forget the brains. Buddhism is an inseparable part of the daily Burmese culture. It is visible everywhere. It's not an event where you arrive at a sacred location once a week to pay homage to a specific deity. It's intertwined into the life of the people. Treat your fellows how you would want to be treated. Always. Joe Lin, Garrett's longtime friend, business partner, and sponsor, practiced these principles in his life, not to advance his own interests, but that of an entire nation. As Myanmar's middle class emerges from the ashes of its past, the intermingling of its people has been a custom for years. Myanmar's economic boom and infrastructure development has obliged its people with many options and conveniences unavailable to them under the old regime. However, like any proud nationalist, their pride lies in the traditions of the past while accepting the changes of its future. So I think a lot of Westerners, when they think about Myanmar and they think about Yangon, this is the image that they get. These kind of
local
city streets and alleys and stuff.
Yeah.
How does you're a high-end, famous fashion designer. How do you go from this to the high-end fashion industry?
Yeah, there's no comparison because, the street food, the street life, people, the locals are here. And just because I'm doing fashion design, which is a high-end thing, doesn't mean that I can be in this world also. So we're at an alley in downtown where you can get really good street food.
This is good.
So we're heading there. I hope your stomach is strong enough for it.
I don't know if it's strong enough. We're gonna see, I guess.
Probably.
Street food, huh?
I like every kind of food, especially street food.
What's your favorite?
Salads.
Salads?
Yeah, like salads.
Salad's not a street food. Street food is like fried stuff. So what do you think's the best stuff here? What should we try?
You want to try the pork fats?
Let's try the pork fat.
But the pork head I ordered, they'll make it into a salad.
The pork head?
Yeah.
So pork head salad.
Yeah, and then the pork
pig
fat. Pig fat.
Sounds like lunch to me. How did you get into the fashion industry?
I was interested, but I was never fully like, this is my career. I never thought this would be my career.
Right.
But I just had an interest. And then with my mom's clients coming in, I would sneak into the fitting rooms just to see the dresses, the outfits, not the people. Because I see all in like satellites and how the international fashion scene is. I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Where do you get most of your inspiration from when you're doing your designs?
The first step for me is actually staying in my own room, figuring out what's wrong with me, what's the problem I have right now, or if I have any little issues since I was young, I would just bring it up to make me a little bit angry, and then I would have a storyline, and I mix it up with a story.
A lot of Westerners think that Myanmar is still closed, very dangerous. What do you have to say about that?
I understand because it's a foreign country, so a lot of people are very more cautious, as the news shows a lot of fights or violence.
Right.
But I've been living here my whole life and I don't see any I feel safe here. I don't feel like I'm gonna get robbed or murdered somewhere on the streets of downtown.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Of course, now since I'm already starting my brands, I want to see my ready-to-wear being successful and going international. I want to have my luxury line also going international. But later I want to start a foundation here to help kids from how do you say, from the provinces or even in Yangon, like they don't have the opportunity to study what they actually want, like fashion, makeup, those kind of things. And then, I want to make it into like a low foundation and to teach people, bring international designers here to talk to them that it's okay, and then and how they can learn to become who they want to be instead of hiding and working a 9-to-5 job that they really don't like for the rest of their life.
How is Myanmar as a country with accepting of other people's lifestyles? Is there a big gay and lesbian community here, and how is that accepted or not accepted socially?
It's a tricky situation. The whole public supports makeup artists, meaning makeup artists, they dress up like women, and they go around, or even in movies when there's like a transgender kind of role, people love it. It's accepting. They accept that part,
right?
But they won't accept it. Most of the people here don't accept it if it is their own child.
Doesn't the government say that it's actually illegal?
Yeah, it's illegal to be gay.
So it's one of those laws that's on the books, but it isn't practiced.
Yeah, it's not practiced. Yeah, it's still in the law that it's illegal. But I don't think anybody would really take it serious. And if it ever did become a serious topic, like if the government started arresting or have one case with gay, of somebody being gay, I think there would be like a protest. I would be in the protest. I think after 2012, people are more daring of what they're wearing than before.
Was part of that that people feel more safe now?
You can say that to an extent. I think it also depends on the society or the place where you're living. That also have a big impact on gays or anybody who is different from the normal society.
Well, it seems like you've changed a lot. You've gone through a lot of changes just in the last 4 or 5 years.
You mean my clothing style?
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, a lot have changed. Cool. Even as 1 year, it changes a lot.
Yeah.
And it's good. The only thing that haven't changed for the past 4 years is my hair.
Really? So when are we going to be changing that?
Yeah, I think I need to change it this year.
What's your favorite thing about Myanmar?
Nature. Not just Yangon, I'm not talking about Yangon, I'm just talking about Burma. Because there are still a lot of untouched places where locals can go. And I mean, foreigners can go too, but it's really hard and dangerous to go to these places. And it's like amazing and beautiful. And another thing is our Burmese traditional wear.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't changed. Like, okay, people wear pants, yes, but we still have our traditional clothing everywhere. Another thing are my temples, like Dago, like Bagan.
Your temple.
Not my temples, like,
I think they're your temples.
My temples, yeah, they're my temples. The whole Bagan is my city.
Sure, Argentinian soccer-playing god Lionel Messi can flawlessly dance his way through 12 hostile adversaries with complete control and grace, placing the treasured sphere seemingly attached to his feet at the perfect location. But is he man enough to crack the torture ball barefooted onto the opposing team's concrete on the streets of Yangon? I dare you, Messi. I've been impressed with soccer-obsessed Brazilians gracefully playing volleyball with their feet on the remote beaches of their coastline, but this is completely different. Shinlone is Myanmar's official pastime. Played with a hard wicker ball and at times being kicked as hard as possible, it strikes me as more of a painful cane foot fetish than the obsession that it has become in Myanmar. Dating back nearly 1,500 years, the sport was originally played by Burmese kings. Today, almost everyone in Myanmar plays the game. In this traditionally non-competitive activity, participants would aim to keep the wicker ball in the air while incorporating unique and beautiful moves to keep it afloat. Today you can see Chinlone being played everywhere, on crowded city streets, bare dirt patches in the rice fields, mountain villages, and under bridges. A more competitive version involving two teams and a net has also evolved, which makes me question my own masculinity.
We are at a place called Kaliwat Monastery, just a little bit outside of Yangon. They have 1,000 kids from the mountainous region. They have about 15 or 16 different tribes. In their mountain ranges, they have no schools. They have to walk maybe a day or so to reach to the nearest school. So,
It's a long walk to get to class.
Yeah. If they have a trouble of finding the school, the monk said, why don't you come and stay at my monastery? But one thing, you have to become a monk. And we will teach you chemistry, physics, mathematics, English. So it's a boarding school,
So this monastery, in particular, you donate to?
I support a lot to this monastery to make sure that these kids get educated. Because education is the most important thing in our country. Very important. I can see that some of the kids are already graduated, from the college or university. They have. Many of them become school teachers and went back to their villages and, start forming the new schools in their region.
How does that make you feel when you help out a monastery and you donate to a monastery and you see these kids go from little novices to grown up and become successful in their lives?
I'm very happy to see that, that everybody should be educated to change this nation. Currently, we are outsourcing a lot. And eventually this country will be taken over back by the local people. It's a transformation. That's why I brought Garrett. I asked Garrett to stay over here and, to teach the people and to change their financial world.
For Garrett to do business in Myanmar, he needed a local sponsor. And are you his local sponsor?
I was, yeah, I did. I invited him to come to Myanmar. So he was in my office, so we were working together. And now he is after a year or so. Then, at that time, at the beginning, it was very difficult because the country is not ready for the investor to come and invest. The regulations, the laws are not implemented. So we have a big, difficult time at the beginning. Then now is the time, I think, it started changing dramatic. After the lady took over. I think from 2015 onwards, 2020, I think Garrett will be very busy bringing investor into Myanmar.
Well, he's already been here. You invited him here 3.5 years ago. He hasn't left yet. Are you getting ready to kick him out?
He will be. I think he was stuck for lifetime. He loved this country.
I think he'll be here forever. Huh?
Yeah. I think.
What do the local people of Myanmar think about Americans?
United States support a lot to this nation during the time of our military regime. They trying to support from the people's side. So people admire, people are very friendly, people like, generally speaking, people like the democratic nations, including United States. So we have no problem. I think we are welcome. We have seen lots of Hollywood movies and so on. So the U.S. is very familiar to our nations. It's not a strange nation. In the past, the British called our country Burma. I believe that it's a mispronunciation of Burma. So they have a mispronunciation and it's become Burma. But Myanmar, it sounds like it doesn't represent any particular tribes. Burma represents one tribe, which is a major tribe. So that Myanmar, it sounds good. So we now can use both Burma or Myanmar.
Either one, it's coin flip.
Yeah.
All right. Buddhism is a huge part of Burmese culture, and right now we're inside of a Burmese monastery.
Yep.
What goes on in a monastery?
In the afternoon, this monastery, they will study the modern education In the morning time, they are quite busy. Half a day, they are going around and collect fruits and so on.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And around 5, 6 o'clock, they would have a prayer service. They have then memorizing, learning Buddha's canon, the teaching of the Buddha. Around 9, they fall asleep. And the next morning, 3:30 again. I came out of the monk, temporary monk, last 3 weeks ago.
Wait, you were a temporary monk?
Monk, yeah.
You can be a temporary monk?
You can go to the monkhoods and balance your merit and demerit.
Really?
Sort of.
So you can just kind of pop in and pop out?
Well, not that easy, but
Because it was starting to look kind of attractive. I could use some help in a few areas.
Want to make sure that we understand the life of the monk, and we practice meditation to understand their life, so that we will more appreciate.
So you were a monk last week?
Last week, for a week period of time.
So what did that look like?
Well, it's a very quite different than our normal life. So in my whole life, I'm now 45. Since I was 13 until 45, I entered into the monastery for 5 times. Yeah.
And you'd meditate for 6 hours a day?
Well, actually, it's meant to be 13 hours a day for meditation. Walking.
So you were taking it easy. You're kind of the slacker.
Sort of. It changes from a man with a 2-3 business with 150 people, and then all of a sudden, you went into the monastery and nobody around you, and it's a little bit weird for me.
It's a shock.
It's a shock. So I just make it 7 or 8 hours, and it's grow. First day is only 3 or 4 hours. I can take it. Then it start growing too. At the end of the week, I could able to take 8 hours.
I couldn't do anything for 3 or 4 hours in a row. Now you're doing a lot of business in Myanmar. How do you marry the Buddhist traditions with your companies?
Well, we have to keep what we call five precepts. You must not kill, you must not lie, you must not commit adultery, you must not steal, you must not do intoxication.
So you try to apply those concepts in your business
yes.
transactions.
Yeah.
And how does that work? Because I would suspect that not everybody practices those same concepts in business.
Most of the time in our business, yes, you can live with this, applying these 5 precepts. Of course, when you go to a cup of beer or so on, I think Buddha will forgive me for that. It's just 5%, not 100%.
Yeah. So what's up with the see walking around monks smoking and stuff like that?
Well, in those days, in the 2,500 years ago, the tobacco was not in the appliance in the law, because there was no such things. Some of the schools, they believe that is okay, but actually it may not be,
So it's up for debate.
Yeah, up for debate. Yeah.
And until then, smoke them up.
But some very strict schools in here, they don't accept it. For example, the monastery I went in cannot take any.
They don't want you starting off your day at 3:30 with a cigarette. That's understandable.
Yeah.
So what are the do's and don'ts of the Buddhist philosophy?
Well, it's like any other religion, Actions become reaction, cause become effect. You don't do to the others that they don't like it, If you smile at someone, he will smile you back, he or she will smile you back, That is, we believe in cause and action. The energy that we are giving, what we will be receiving, it's always bouncing back.
So a lot of that has to do with karma, yeah?
Yes.
So if I'm nice to you, then you'll be nice to me, and if I'm a jerk to you, then
Yeah.
I should run the other way?
Yeah. Yes. That's.
It really seems to me like the people of Myanmar live that philosophy. Since we've been here, people have been so kind to us. Everybody smiles at you, says hello, how are you? And they seem like they really mean it.
Yeah.
Other parts of the world, it isn't like that.
you think of tourism, we only have about 300,000 tourists a year that come in. Together with business, trading, we receive more than 2 million. You know, the border trade that people come in from the foreigners coming in for trading. So our country it's a perfect time for people to come and see what the 19th century that is. You know, our country, when you come here from Bangkok, you set your time up for half an hour, you know, forward, but actually it's 60 years, you know, 60 years backwards. So it's you see the tree-lined avenues, some people are very friendly. Eventually, I believe the people when people enter to the modern world, sad thing is people will be tense, stressful, because they start competing. Now we don't compete anything. We don't compete anything. We are satisfied with what we have. We are very sustainable. But in the future, I believe that there will be a lot of stressful. Somehow we will miss those miles in the next 10, 20 years. We don't know. Life will go on, you know. Yeah, and I don't want to miss it. Maybe the one day that people will not wear the sarong, the longi that I'm wearing. It's inevitable, you know. Sometimes we try to preserve our tradition as much as we can, but some of the things are, even you try to preserve it, you have to give it up, because the world is, you know, the globalization has no boundary. It's just so much momentum, you know. It's just coming towards us. My life and my children's life is not the same. They are stuck, you know, on their touch screens. You know, we miss already all the kids. You know, my son got the brand new iPhones, and he's playing with this, you know, laptop. In the past, when I was young, we were playing. It's a social, you know. You need to have a friend around you to play. There's no way. So we are very closed in the society. It's start changing.
Globally, when people talk about, oh, when I was young, we were out playing with each other or whatever. But here it's very, very real, because 4 years ago, your son wouldn't have had the opportunity to be glued to his phone. And the question is some of these modern day conveniences going to take away from the culture that has been preserved here for so long?
Well, you know, my vision is very clear. You want to live your life until 100. It's your attachment.
I'll take 100. I think I'd be real lucky, but
okay. But you know, people want to be long life. People want to enjoy their needs. People want to enjoy their life fully. And our country is people. You know, our lifespan is quite shorter than the U.S. People dying at the age of 50, at the age of 60, and the young kids can be dying just by diarrhea, for example. So what my vision is, I want my people to enjoy, I want them to live as long as Americans live. I want them to enjoy whatever the people in the other world has. You know, it's so nowadays, when you go to inland lake, for example, or mountainous regions, people die for no reason, you know. People, their life, their health care, their education. I want them to catch up with the rest of the world. So, because people attach their life, they want to live longer, you know. They don't want to have a sorrowful life. In our country, we have this problem. And that's why I want to be my country to develop for the people, for the sake of the people.
So since we've arrived in Myanmar, everybody seems so friendly here, and even the people that live very simply, very basic, seem to have smiles on their faces and happy and content with what they have. Do you think that part of the culture will remain the same as the country develops?
Some of the culture will, you know, some of the culture will remain if we understand our traditions, the value of it. But if you think that our culture is just a trash, then people will give it up. So we have to make sure that our people understand and appreciate our culture and the traditions. So they need to appreciate it. So then we can keep on going. For example, in Japan, they keep their traditions a long time. They're quite different to the other.
Right.
So if we value ourselves, if we can praise our culture, I think it's worth stay.
What do you see for your kids as they grow up? What do you hope that their lives will look like that has been different from what you have experienced in your life?
Well, I want them to help the nation, this nation, because my children will go to US to study, or England, because I want them to have a very, very good in education. So I spend my energy, effort, and money for them to study further studies in outside of the country. And they will come back here to contribute the changes of Myanmar. That's what my mission is. These kids will help develop the nation.
I think they've got a good shot at doing it with you being their father. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Now, it would be a cardinal sin to leave Yangon without visiting the world-famous 19th Street. Myanmar has over 135 different ethnic groups, so this is going to be like food cart heaven here. I don't think I'll even be able to identify most of what they're selling, which is part of the reason that makes me so excited. And these are big mounds of, oh no, tell me this isn't what I think it is. What is this? Yep, it's what I think it is. No, I don't. I think she's ripping off the legs of a bug for me to eat. How do you eat this? You eat the whole thing. There's none of me that wants to do this at all. Okay, well that kind of sounds like you have no choice, Gringo. Did one of them just pop out at me? I've got a cricket head in my mouth. $1? Who pays who? She pays me? I don't think so. Here's the problem. It kind of tastes, it's all salted up, but I know I got a cricket head in my mouth. We need to get out of the bug section, man. I'm telling you that much. There are mounds of crickets. Like enough crickets to... There's a lot of crickets, that's all I'm saying. You don't need to watch the news for long to see stories of foreign countries in shambles. The conclusion most viewers arrive at are that the whole country is on fire and should be avoided at all costs forever. But don't we have the same problems in the United States? Would you avoid Orlando for the rest of your life because of the recent terrorist mass shooting? Would you vow never again to enter Chicago due to its 748 shooting murders in 2016? All nations have problems, and in all nations life goes on for its people. I prefer to make my conclusions from the people that live there and experience life on a daily basis, not the biased news media making their analysis and storylines fit political agendas to the liking of their audiences. What's the thing that you miss the most about the United States?
Probably the air. I was born near Tahoe. I love being outside, and so just being out in that cool, brisk air in the Tahoe, Sierra Nevadas, I guess. I miss that quite a bit.
Why did you leave the United States?
It's actually the freedom you have to do almost whatever you want. And I don't mean that in a sense that you could get away with a lot of illegal activity. Not at all, actually. I think it gives you an opportunity to get involved in many different areas that you wouldn't have elsewhere.
What do you mean by the freedom to do whatever you want?
Anything from, I'm not going to get a ticket if I cross the road in the wrong place, or gotcha. I'm not going to get a ticket if I turn my car around in the wrong place, to the types of businesses that you want to start and you have a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity comes with that. And of course, a lot of responsibility, but it's just not something that you have in the States. I think there's...
It's not as regulated.
It's not, yeah, it's not as regulated. And the more I see what's going on in the US, I feel like those freedoms are slowly being taken away. You have a lot of control over what you do and how you do it. You don't find that in many other countries, especially many developing or developed countries. What's really unique is that you could do a lot more at a much younger age than you could in the US. I feel like there's a lot of gatekeepers in the States, where here you could come in and do almost anything you want.
Were you scared to come into this country in 2006?
It's really, really safe. You know, you could go out walking at night during the city and not much is going to happen. Even in downtown San Diego or San Francisco, that's way more likely than you'd ever have here.
It's got to be a pretty exciting time to be here.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, I'm so happy that I moved here in 2012. I'm even happier that I'm here now with this new government, because it's almost like a whole nother wave of hope and excitement, and you can see it and feel it within the population. What a lot of people don't realize is that, yeah, the country opened up in 2012, but it really wasn't a democratically elected government. I mean, it was more a lot of military guys changing their uniform. And it wasn't until late last year in 2015, and then starting this year in April, that it was actually a democratically elected government. You know, another big change that I saw from 2012 and being back there in 2006 was what you can say. I mean, you couldn't go talk about, you know, in a tea shop like this, you couldn't say that you hate Aung San Suu Kyi or you hate the military or that you like or dislike anything. And so to see that when I came back was really quite interesting. That now you have any Burmese individual doesn't have to worry about being, you know, spied on under a glass or something along those lines. So that freedom to express themselves, to show off if they want to, or buy whatever they want to, it's pretty amazing.
They've tried to bring in a new government before, and it hasn't worked. So that took a lot. It was a big risk for you to be here at the beginning, I suspect.
Yeah, but I mean, I really felt that I had nothing to lose, because I just knew the experience was worth it. And even if I came here, things didn't work out after a couple of years, I knew that that experience in itself would be worth whatever happened if I went back.
What do you think the biggest problems are in the United States right now?
I believe their foreign policy is just really off. I feel one of the biggest issues is just how the U.S. perceives developing countries, and it has this very empire type feel when they come into a new country. It has nothing to do with we want to help the country, we want to develop it, we want to get it to the next level. It's more about how we want to come in and we want to lend using our money, and then we want you to construct things using our companies.
What do you think about the presidential candidates at the moment?
I think it's probably worse than watching like Real Housewives of whatever city. I mean, it's embarrassing.
So you can jump on any board. So you have your board, you got your life jacket and your leash. So if you take a look at the paddle, it's adjustable. So there's a little clip at the end of the paddle. Unclip it and pull it out. And you can see it'll stretch out, okay? So basically what you want to do is stretch it out maybe about 45 degrees or about 6 inches above your head. And after that, clip it. When we carry the board out into the water, that's the crash course, guys. So let's get in the water and we'll figure it out. So if you want to paddle straight, keep that paddle close to your board. Don't scrape the board with it, but keep it close to the board. All right, so when you paddle, it's just like that motion.
This is my first time stand-up paddle boarding. Never thought it would take place in Myanmar. Oh, here they go.
All right, so this is Yangon Sailing Club, formerly known as the Rangoon Sailing Club, and we've been established since 1924. And again, like, this is not really a lake, it's actually man-made. So we have the sailing club, and we also have the rowing club. Again, this place was run by the English in 1924, established by the English, and by that time, no Burmese were allowed to come here. Until Commander Kim Pae-ji, a Navy commander, 1954. And before his time, there were no Burmese allowed. So Commander Kim Pae-ji came in and changed it up. And ever since then, we've had Burmese Commodores now. I'll take you to the back of the house where we build our boats. This is our traditional boats. The first row are called the Sharpie. The second row is called the Raiders. So every weekend we race in these boats. So the Raiders are Saturdays, Sharpies on Sundays. So far there's no construction, but this is the boat yard where we do all our work. All boats are built here. So all the maintenance of all those wooden boats are done in this room. And the boat builders are third generation. So all that knowledge is passed down from father to son. And how would you say, they're skilled, you know, like this is an art that no one really has anymore. This is the cruder form, but it's old school. This is really old school style. All right, let's go to the bar, have a drink, and I'll take you out on the boat. Yeah, we recently installed the roof because it's just like... Good call. All these islands are owned by military, so they still run it.
Military guys have no idea.
Check out that. See, this is the shit that's happening. That's a trash pile. You see that? So all these business owners and all these restaurants, there's no real trash pickup here. So what they do, they dump it here. We're trying to stop that. And when the trash gets dumped there and the wind blows, that's how it spreads throughout the lake. But this is a public area. These are restaurants, and you can access these restaurants through Ian Road, have some food there, and then you can walk along the bank. All these tall buildings, I mean, they just started popping up in the last 2-3 years. Business is here, man. The Economist ranked us as the #1 fastest growing economy in the world. We're growing at 8.5%. You can't own a land here, you know, so you got to partner up with the local. And
so you bring some money and an idea. And
that's right. You bring your business in, partner up with someone you trust.
Right.
He'll operate with the land, and there you do business. My goal right now is just to get every resident and business to appreciate the lake. I mean, we don't have greenery left. As the city develops and all that, right, the first thing you'll see is greenery go away, you know? So hopefully people will start to treasure this lake and, you know, like respect it, because this is the only thing we got. But this is all military right here. Those are, you can see some houses, soldiers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can go chill up there, just take some cigarettes and a bottle of whiskey.
No shit.
You're cool.
Why are they hanging out there?
Sentries. They're on guard. Someone's got to stay there. You got to show presence that you're there. So.
Oh yeah, 'cause that's the road that goes to the American.
That's J Road.
Yeah.
That's Parmy. Anyways, that's Auntie Sue's house with the red roof. It's not that. I mean, she can make it better. But so she was in that house for what? Over 20 plus years. House arrest. She couldn't leave the compound, and that was her life.
She doesn't live there any longer. Obviously.
Nope, she's in the capital now. She's boss lady. Yeah, this was all guarded by soldiers at one point. If we came out with a sailboat here, no man, you're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
You just don't do it, man. You don't mess with the government, bro. That's the Serbian ambassador's house, the white one there.
God damn. Straight ahead?
Yeah, straight ahead. So he's got a nice prop. This white building right in front of the boat, that's the guest house for the government. So Obama comes, he stays there. And then Obama's visit was a huge deal. That was pretty cool of Obama to come here. I like Obama, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He made a speech at our school too.
Were you there?
Yeah, of course, man. That's the president.